Hey guys, what's going on? Today I'm going to talk about house hacking. If you haven't heard of it before, what it is, and how you can essentially get people to pay for you to live for free and hopefully and then some to get some cash flow. So essentially the way it works is when you buy there's an opportunity out there to buy multi-unit small family they're apartment buildings, but they're called duplexes, triplexes, and quads. Basically, what that is it's multiple units in one property, and with FHA loans, 203k loans, loans I talk about on this page, you're able to buy up to a 4-unit property. So recently, there's been a lot of things. Talking about house hacking, talking about BRRRR or BRRRR methods. These are all done using this type of formula. So essentially what you want to do is you want to look for a property where you can rent out part of it or some of it to tenants and become a landlord. What you want to do is you want to get into the apartment, you want to get into the property, you live in one of the units, and you rent out the other one. Now, ideally, you want the rent to be able to cover your mortgage payment every month. If it covers your mortgage payment every month, that means that you're living rent-free. So the way this worked for me when I started on my first deal was I purchased a duplex property that was in really bad shape. Okay, but my plan was to house hack. So essentially what I wanted to do was live in one unit according to the 203k rules and FHA rules. You need to live in it for up to 1 year. So my goal was to get in there, live in there for a minimum of a year and see where life took me and kind of move on from there. But that was the goal, and rent out the other unit to a family or to a tenant. In my case, it was a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, so it could fit a small family. So my property, I wanted to make sure that I would be able to cover the mortgage with the tenant rent payment every month, and I was pretty much there. I was really close. And I realized that even if they pay 90%, that's still really good. It's better than paying rent anywhere else. I would essentially be paying $400 a month to live in a house. And at the same time, they're paying most of my mortgage on my property, and I'm building equity on my property. It's kind of like over time. What's the best way to describe this? So essentially, when you buy a property, the bank owns majority of it, right? And when you put down that down payment, you really want to make sure that you have, ample amount of equity in your building. So, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this, but essentially, when you're having someone else pay your mortgage, essentially you're having someone else build equity, and you're basically only limited to your down payment. It's basically if you bought a really nice digital camera, right? You buy a really nice digital camera, you spend a couple $100, $500 on the front end, but then you open up a business as a photographer, right? So say you charge $100 a deal, right? $100 a photography session, right? After 5 sessions, you're covering yourself, and everything after that is basically money in your pocket. The same thing could be said about house hacking or having a multi-family property where you're able to rent out the other units and have someone essentially paying off your property. So in my case, I paid $9,500 up front for my property. I lived in it for the first year. I didn't really live in it. I was rehabbing it, so I had it as my primary residence, but I didn't actually live in it because it was unlivable. It was that distressed. But ideally, what would happen is I would stay in it for a number of months, and then once I'm ready to move out, and build up an equity into the property through rehabbing and through having someone pay the mortgage every month, I would be able to refinance out of it and get out of there completely, and then rent out both units. So now, essentially, what you're doing is you're having someone else pay the mortgage for you. That's the most powerful thing about real estate, is when you do a deal where someone else is paying your mortgage, you're basically using your power to buy up front, which doesn't really require that much with FHA loans. You put a little bit down up front, but ultimately the payoff is going to be exponential, right? If you think about it, you're paying $9,500. In my case, I paid $9,500, but my rent payment every month is $3,000 a month, or my mortgage payment is $3,000 a month. So once I have both people in the unit, I'm making $2,000 every month on top of paying off the mortgage. So not only am I going to pay off the house in 15 years, and I have that, which is, a paid off house that I could sell for $500,000. I'm also getting a residual $2,000 every single month. And in that case, it's helping me live free in my apartment that I'm living in right now. Okay. It basically covers my rent for here. So essentially, that's what I wanted to get at, is the power of principal pay down is what we call it. And principal pay down, again, is very similar to what I just kind of said. If you buy this camera, and basically up front, you got to pay off the camera. Maybe you put it on layaway, or maybe you took out a credit, you used a credit card to buy it and you paid it off over time. It's the same kind of thing, but it's on a much larger scale. And essentially what you're able to do is, come up with a game plan that long term is going to make you a lot of money, and something that you can repeat on every house thereafter. The goal is always cash flow. You never buy a property on value or appreciation. You always buy on cash flow, because at the end of the day, if you have a property that's paying itself, at the end of 15, 30 years, you have an asset that you're able to sell and liquidate and either trade up, go into larger multifamily properties, or, any number of things. So if you have any questions about the house hacking and how it can benefit you, comment below. But again, I really just want to reiterate that, if you house hack and you get someone else to pay your mortgage for you, that's your first taste of financial freedom. Not having to have a burden of a rent payment or a mortgage payment every month. So keep an eye out for stuff that I have coming. I want to get more in depth going forward. Once people start asking me more questions, that means asking me more questions. But as more things come to light, and I can help you guys better, I'll start getting in more deep about exactly how I did the things that I did, and exactly how you guys can do it in your business and in your real estate careers. All right. So please don't be shy. Please put some comments. Send me a message direct if you feel like it's a stupid question or something like that. I'm really here to help. I think everybody should do this. It's really like free money that the FHA and HUD programs give people. And if you're smart about it, your first house doesn't have to be a financial nightmare. It could actually be a really good financial decision, like the realtors tell you. All right. So have a good night, guys. And we'll talk soon.